I know all our customer service people are up and about taking care of our clients, but that is how it should be. And for sure, in the spirit of customer service week, I've just gotten a very big cake in our office. I'm wondering what will I even do with it. But that shows the essence of customer service. Our patrons, the people also we service, I believe they feel they're getting taken care of by ACCUREX. And in line with this year's vision and mission, it's mission possible. So, and when I think about it, I've always been, or what triggered me this year was like, actually, it's possible to give excellent customer service. It's possible for customers to be happy. It's possible for the customer service team to be happy. So I feel like this should be very encouraging. And to top us off, we have none other than John Weru, a very in-house facilitator, excellent trainer with wild years of experience. And I'm also very excited just to see how Mission Possible is going to turn out today. How even the customer service team, how we take care of them, how we take care of our customers. So I'm very excited. Karibu Sana John and the entire team that is already here. I know maybe we are representing from companies. I know there's a company that is watching us from their boardroom. So you have a very big audience, not to put too much pressure on you, but a very warm welcome again. This is ACCUREX. ACCUREX is a HR training and consulting firm. We're based right here in Nairobi, and we do amazing things in the space of training, team building. What else do we do? We have people HRIS, that's HR technology, among other things. So I'm very happy to talk about our company as we come to an end of this webinar session this morning and afternoon. So the format will take a presentation by John that will take about 45-50 minutes thereabout. We'll have a Q&A session and then talk about our company at the very tail end of the webinar. We also be looking out to we have a feedback form. So if you're interested in any topic, if you're interested in a certificate, feel free to give us the feedback on the feedback form at the very tail end, and then we are able to pick it up from there. So thank you so much, and Karibu Sana John.
Okay, it's a good morning to everyone. You're all having a good day and a great customer service week. And just before I go into my presentation, I'd just love to hear from you if there are any outstanding experiences, outstanding anecdotes of what has been happening in your organization this customer week. Anybody would like to volunteer? Anything spectacular, anything outstanding, anything heartwarming, anything that makes you go, oh, and so on. Anybody? Feel free. Okay. So maybe as we think about those wonderful experiences that maybe you're having, maybe also the ones that are not so good that you'd like to share, we want to dive into this presentation. Purity, are you able to project or just do it on my end? Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about Mission Possible, leading with excellence and celebrating service champions. By the way, before I begin, is everybody able to see my screen? I hope you are. If you're not, please just stop me at any point, and I'd be happy to see what we can do to resolve that technical issue. So we're talking about Mission Possible, leading with excellence and celebrating service champions. And generally, if you think about Mission Possible, maybe what comes to mind is that very interesting series that we are familiar with called Mission Impossible. Now, for many organizations, excellent customer service has become a bit of a mission impossible, and that leads to all kinds of needs a lot of content on the internet that really goes to the heart of poor customer service. So it is my hope that by the end of this presentation, you will be left with a much clearer sense of what it means to have excellence in customer service, in customer care, and then to begin to think how can we move from where we are right now to become excellent or the best that we can be when it comes to customer service. So I want to begin with an overview of what we want to be able to understand today. We want to understand what leading with excellence means. We want to be able to look at traits of service champions. And then how do we build a culture of recognition and care so that excellence is not just a flash in the pan, it's not just something that we do once in a while, it's not just something that happens and then customers are wowed because something good has happened, but it is something that we do on a consistent, on a regular basis. That when somebody thinks about our institution, about our organization, what comes to mind is that, yeah, that's an organization that has got excellent customer service. So, why does it matter? Why should we care today? Of course, right now everybody's thinking about customer service week. Even the ones that have got really bad customer service, generally other times of the year. This week they really try to be on their to put their best foot forward. But the reason why we want to think about this a bit more carefully is because the customers that we're dealing with today are empowered, they're informed, and they're impatient. And let me give you an example. You can get a restaurant, and then if the meal takes too long, you'll find that a customer will just chat, will probably even take a picture of the restaurant, upload it on social media, add a very negative review, and before long that has gone viral, and suddenly about two, 300 other people are talking about the same problem. A customer loses money at his bank account in one of the major banks, which I won't mention, and you find that before long, everybody is talking about incidences where they've also lost money, either with the same bank or another bank. And that now becomes very contagious. And now suddenly you find that an entire financial system has to start worrying about customers in their banks. And we could be talking about many other situations where we are dealing with a very different customer landscape from what it used to be. And that is why it is important for us today to think about the experience. It's no longer just about offering a good, offering a product or a service, but now we want to think about customer service in terms of the experience. What experience do we leave somebody with when they interact with our brand? And we'll be talking a bit more about that when it comes to discussing about moments of truth. We'll see what that is. But just keep that in the back of your mind that service is now about experience. So, what is the goal of good or excellent customer service? We want to turn every interaction into an opportunity to continue fostering customer loyalty, enabling customers to remain loyal to our brand, and hence continue on growing with them. So let's begin. We talk about excellence. What exactly comes to mind? Now, true or false? Excellence is perfection. You have to be perfect at what you do. Do you think that is what excellence is? Not really. You see, when we talk about excellence, it's impossible. You see, we talk about being to err is to human. So it's unlikely that we'll be able to achieve 100% perfection in every interaction. However, there are three things that we can work on in our organizations that will contribute to a culture of excellence or excellence in customer service. And they're built on what are called three C's. So the first C stands for competence, the second C stands for compassion, and the third C stands for communication. So when you talk about you need and your people need to be equipped with the knowledge, with the skills that they need to be able to offer service with precision, professionalism, and confidence. It reminds me of a time at a major telecom company in this country. And before they deployed us onto the call center, the first thing that they did was to take us through a 6 week induction course, if you like, where we were taught what we needed to know we were taught about the products and services, we were taught about the procedures, and we were taught about the general soft skills that we needed to be able to interact with customers. Many of the times, who we would not see, customers who would be in very interesting and difficult situations. Sometimes it would be very hard to imagine. We would probably get customers from across the country. Yeah, and sometimes it's very hard when you're sitting in a call center to be able to think, okay, this customer is complaining about a problem. I cannot see what he's seeing, but now how can I be able to help him? So you need to be competent in that area. The second C has to do with compassion. That you see, none of us really likes to handle or to work with a robot because, and I'll tell you, many Kenyans, correct me if I'm wrong, prefer to talk to a person. They might even prefer to call you later than to leave a message on your voicemail. Have you ever noticed that is probably a common national trait? Yeah. Why?
So,
Yeah. Sorry. Is there a problem? I just had somebody mention something.
sorry, I was saying it's true. You're
Oh,
right.
okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you find that many people prefer to interact with a person rather than interact with maybe any of these tools that we have, be it voicemail or the IVR, interactive voice response. If you're thinking about interactive voice response, what I mean is something like for this service, press one, for this service, press three, and so on. People generally don't like dealing with that. Okay, and that is why you find that many businesses have also had to open social media customer care channels because people want a place where they can interact with another person. They want to feel, they want to feel that you as a customer care service agent are empathetic, you're patient to listen, and you have the kindness to act. And that is part of the package because when you talk about excellence, yes, you can provide all the technology that you want. And really, we have tools, we have technological tools that can, whoa, they can make you do, help you do everything that you need to do. But at the end of the day, when you think about the people with whom we must interact, the customers that we have to deal with, the fact is, they want to feel heard. They want to feel seen. They want to feel that you've empathized, that you're patient with them, and that you're kind, even if sometimes you feel that there may be an easier way to do this. An example that comes to mind, another example that comes to mind is how you'll find, I don't know how many of us have done banking at a banking hall recently. Um, but there's something I've noticed. You'll probably notice that when you go to the banking hall, some of the people waiting in the queue might be waiting. The problem they're waiting to have resolved is something that could have been solved if they knew how to use their ATM properly, if they knew how to use their internet banking properly or their mobile banking app to be able to achieve to get the same service. But usually, the reason why they'll prefer to sit hours, maybe minutes at a banking hall is because they still want to talk to a person. And sometimes that is something we need to understand as customer service agents. We need to bring that humanity into care. And finally, the third C is communication, ensuring understanding, alignment, and trust between the parties. I could say something, but it can only be communication until you've understood it in the channel in which I have sent it. Now, closely related to this is the bit about leadership. We need to remember that as customer service agents, we are frontline. And so we have to think ourselves as the CEOs of our customers' experience. What do I mean by that? When a customer comes to your organization and interacts with you, at that point, you're the contact person who needs to be able to own that experience and be able to resolve it to the conclusion and to the reasonable conclusion. And if it's not within your purview, then to escalate it or to refer it to an agent who can help a customer. And some of these actions create big loyalty. So, what you need to be able to do to be able to have that skill set, that leadership skill set that will be able to take ownership of a customer experience. Number one, you need to have emotional intelligence. And we could go into a whole presentation about what emotional intelligence is and how to apply that to any engagement with your customers. You need to have listening skills. And here we're not talking about just listening skills in general, we're talking about active listening. Active listening is not listening with a view to responding, but it's with a view to understanding what the customer really is trying to say. So, for example, it would mean asking questions. It would mean reframing that question in a way that to ensure that you understand what the issue is. For example, if a customer is complaining about service, you could say, "Do I understand you to say this, or do I hear you complaining about this?" And that is an aspect that shows that you have learned how to listen actively. It also means being accountable, and we'll be discussing a little more on that, and coaching those ones who are with you. Because let's face it, we may not always be there to handle every situation. So it's important that those ones that you're working with, do you have the ability to be able to coach them, to teach them, to instruct them, to train them, so that where you excel, you can also pass those skills so that at some point, when the situation now demands it, they too can be able to step up to the plate. So that is what we're talking about. So leadership, excellence. Now, for us to be able to achieve all these things, and this is where I want to spend the bulk of my presentation, we need to create a culture. Now, at this point, I'd just like to hear from you in the audience. When you think of the word culture, what comes to mind? Anyone? Anybody who can share their thoughts? When you hear the word culture, in this country, we've got communities that refer to the way they do things as their culture. What comes to mind when you hear the word culture? Anyone? Anybody? Anybody? Any thoughts when you hear the word culture? Neptune, go ahead.
Hello, Mwalimu. I think culture, okay, from the definition, we normally say it's a way of doing things. So probably if I can give my example, if, okay, let me say if an organization, it has a culture of arriving to work late for whatever reason. If, let me say you're supposed to report at 8, and then people report even at 10 without any explanation, and
Yes.
it is normal. So it might be a bad culture, but it is happening. So that is the way of doing things for specific reason. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Neptune. So it's a way of doing things. On the messages, I can see Mary Juliet has said it's a tradition. Simon Jogona says that it is the norm of how people or organizations go about their business and day-to-day habits. Generally, culture is a broad subject. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Mary. Any other thoughts on what culture is, on how you understand culture? So, Washington, in terms of communities, we can say beliefs, customs, values, traditions. In work setup refers to values, attitude, and behavior of how people interact. Yeah, and really, generally, we're talking about beliefs, customs, values, norms. Now, here's the thing. For many of our communities, doesn't matter where you come from in the Republic and beyond, uh, our cultures are handed down. Yeah. They are things that we have found. We found our parents doing them, we found our grandparents doing them, and maybe if you're very fortunate, you also found your great grandparents doing them. And when you ask, why do we do this? Sometimes they'll simply tell you it's because the ones we met before us uh, told us that this is how things are done. Yeah, that's usually what happens. Now, and usually it is the way it is happens is that it is taken to be received wisdom in the sense that it is not wisdom that you're supposed to question. You're simply supposed to accept the way things are done and probably follow through and maybe teach your children and grandchildren. But when you talk about organizations, many times we realize that we are the ones who have to set up and have to start the culture that will now define that organization in the years to come. So the question is, if it now falls upon you as a customer care leader, as a customer care agent, to contribute to forming the organizational culture, the question is, how do you do it? Okay, and that is what now we want to think about. How do you create a culture, be it in any setup, but now specifically to your organization? How do you create a culture of excellence? Now, that is what we want to spend a bit of time discussing. And I'd be happy to hear from you, to be able to uh, hear your insights or to what is working for you in your organization. And if you feel that there's anything that we need to spend a bit more time on, I'd be happy to maybe spend a few more minutes on that. So let's start with the first element when it comes to creating a service culture. Culture flows down, not up. You see, for an organization to have a culture of excellence, the folks at the top have to model that culture. You have to model the behavior. You have to show that you listen. You have to be responsive. You have to show humility and treat both staff and customers with respect. It reminds me of an experience that happened years ago. It happened at a major airline, and it happened at a time when the airline was going through a cost-cutting exercise. They needed to downsize. They needed to cut costs not from non-essential activities, and for the CEO to really impress on his staff that there was need to cut costs in every aspect. Instead of going out to eat as was the custom before, he visibly started coming to work with packed lunch. And by just doing that one exercise, probably on his CEO's salary, he could still have been able to afford eating out. But would that really have helped the staff to visualize the import of what he was trying to communicate? But by just that one act of bringing his own packed lunch from home and eating that lunch in the office, everybody got to understand that if the CEO is even cutting back on eating out, then what behavior must we also adopt? We need to adopt a behavior, the practice of cutting costs and saving on where we can. So when managers care for employees, if leadership treats service as a metric instead of a mindset, then that culture will not be created. The culture will die on arrival. So here's a question to you as customer care agents. Think about the culture in your organizations, in your companies. Is there something that you could do, especially in a position of responsibility in the organization, to start changing the culture, start changing the way things are done in the organization? So that's something for you to think about. I can see Sylvia Gadoni has added something there. Okay, all right, Sylvia, sorry, I'd probably not seen that. Thank you. Yes, so we start by defining, by thinking what behavior do we want to model, and then doing just that. Now, moving on, we also need to define what excellent looks like. Now, you'll sometimes hear vague slogans like, we care about our customers. Well, that's not what we're talking about. You see, we need to have clear, observable standards. For example, how quick should we respond? I remember one restaurant years ago here in Nairobi had I think it was their rule that customers were entitled to a free meal if the food they ordered came later than 7 minutes. So that was their goal, that every customer or every person who came to the restaurant needed to be served within a maximum of 7 minutes, or else that meal or that customer would be entitled to a free meal. Now, what do you think that created among the workers? To be at their best, isn't it? What do you think that meant for the systems in the kitchen that were actually preparing the food? Again, they had to be on point, okay, for you to be able to work together, work synchronously. So that is what we need to do. We need to ask ourselves, how quickly should I respond to this customer? Is it 1 minute? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 24 hours? So we need to be able to create, or we need that window, that time window within which a customer's issue is handled should be very clearly defined and should be known by everybody. How do we greet and close interactions? Do you create a work ticket? Do you, and after creating a work ticket, after everything is done, do you send a survey to ask the customer if they were happy with the service? And if the service is negative, if you're given a negative review, if you're given maybe 2 or 3 stars instead of 5, what do you do with that? So that needs to be understood. What tone and empathy level do we expect, okay, of everybody? Okay, so that when everybody now comes to the front line where they're having to interact with the staff, with the customers, that everybody knows that this is the tone I need to adopt. Okay, I may be having a bad day at home, I may be having rough things, or I may be having really, really stressful things in my life, but when I'm in front of the customer, this is how I need to be. So that needs to be defined. Now, what follow-up actions define thoroughness? Then once you've asked these questions, then that needs to be documented. People need to be trained on it, and they need to be rewarded when they display that kind of excellence in customer service. Now, I'm sure you've heard this one: hire for attitude, train for skill. And it's generally true. You can train a skill, but attitude is a bit more difficult to train. You can teach somebody how to use a customer relationship management system, but can you teach them to genuinely care about another person? I think that comes from somewhere deep within, isn't it? So when you're doing your hiring, when you're doing your recruiting, look for people with emotional intelligence. Look for people with curiosity and resilience. Then once you see those characteristics, then provide them with the skill that they need, or with the knowledge that they need, product and service knowledge, the specific emotional skills that they need for this, or to be able to function well in this particular role, and of course the conversational clarity that they may need to be able to serve the customers effectively. So again, as you notice, customer service is not just something that you have in a department. Okay, it is something that must breathe right through the entire organization, from HR, basically management. Everybody should be, in essence, a good customer service agent for the organization. The other thing is that we need to build consistency through systems. Excellence isn't random, it is repeatable. Create processes that make it easy for staff to deliver great service every time. And on this one, I'd like to use an example when I talk about consistency. And I'm going to ask a question, and I'd love to hear your answers because I know we've got people from different parts of the country. I want us to think about our traditional marriage ceremonies. Okay, just think about where you come from and how, what you call it, whether it is a rurashio or a koito or is the other one. Okay, just think about the processes that go through until somebody is now declared that these two people are now married properly within the culture. What do you notice about all those ceremonies? Anybody? As we talk about consistency, are they consistent? Are they repeatable? Anyone? But you get the point of what I mean, okay? That, yes, Rebecca, you want to say something?
I would say it's a process that in some customs it's documented and it's followed. It's
Yes.
consistent. Yes.
That's my point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. In most places, you'll notice that there's a pattern that is followed. There's a first step, there's a second step, there's a third step, all the way up to the end. Now, it's the same thing. When you're building a culture, you need to ensure that the systems you create are consistent, that they are repeatable, that it's easy for, there are things that everybody understands. The cultures we come from, I just use the example of marriage. In other cultures that we have very clear processes. For example, when there's a birth, when there's a death, when there is something else, there are very clear processes that everybody who is part of that culture understands. So similarly, when it comes to an organization, we need to create the kind of consistent practices that everybody in the organization understands. So what will that look like? Okay. Now, for many of our traditional cultures, These are things that maybe we just absorb because of having been brought up in that cultural context. We've seen our aunties do it, we've seen our cousins do it, we've seen our parents, our grandparents, we've seen other distant relatives do it. So it kind of you kind of learn with time that this is how we, from whichever part of the country, do things. However, when you're not doing that with an organization, it need to tweak that a little bit for us now to be able to achieve the same goal. Now, what do I mean? We need we need to create processes that make it easy for staff to deliver great service every time. So what will that look like? Standard operating procedures. Customer knows, customer is in front of you. This is a situation. This is how you resolve it. In some organizations, they even go so far as to give you a script, okay, that this is what you should say when this happens, okay? And you're expected to take time to internalize that script. You don't deviate from that script in a lot of ways so that whoever now comes to that organization almost knows that they are going to expect the same kind or the same level of service. So, do you want to write a script out, or do you want to give people the basic idea and then allow them to adapt? That's entirely up to you. Okay, but the idea is that there needs to be procedures that everybody understands. Templates for responses, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, CRM systems that remember customer preferences, feedback loops that catch mistakes early, and systems that make consistency possible. And that leads to the building of trust. So again, the question for you to ask yourself is, when you look at your organization, do you think there's some processes that still need to be documented? Usually, this is especially if with the fast pace at which we do things these days, this is usually a difficult one because we're just juggling too many things. Usually, many organizations, there are very, very many moving parts. So sometimes it's very difficult to sit down and think, okay, how do we want this? But it's important, okay? Because now that helps you to be able to empower your people for them to know what is expected, for them to know to what service level, to what scale they're expected to handle things. And then from there, it's much easier for you now to be able to deploy much more effectively when it comes to your customer care, and also to build something that is very critical with customers, and that is build trust. And you want your customers to trust you. The only way of doing that is by them feeling that indeed what you do is consistent in everything that you do. So we've talked about systems. Now let's talk about empowering employees to act. Now, one of the things that you'll always notice in an organization that is still working towards excellence is a situation where employees have to always refer to the manager. Now, how many of us have ever had this situation? What seems to be a very routine exercise is delayed simply because somebody just does not have the power to make a decision on the spot. Of course, it's a tricky one. Okay, different organizations have different situations to deal with. But generally, the key idea is employees need to feel empowered enough to be able to make decisions to routine situations without always needing to have to ask the manager. And again, this flows from what we've discussed before. If customer care guidelines, operating procedures, templates are clearly defined, then the need to constantly have to refer back to senior manager will be immensely reduced. Now, and this goes to the heart of sometimes maybe a problem that may be there within some organizations where maybe internally there has not been enough trust that has been created to be able to achieve this. There's always the fear that if I empower my employees, either they will steal from me or they will collude or what and what and what. And maybe that is something that may need to, sometimes organizations need to, you know, analyze or go through, understand, see how to eliminate some of those issues that could cause a lot lack of trust internally, so that now when you face when you face customers, you have got empowered staff who can make decisions and help customers with what they need. Customers rarely care about your internal politics. They generally do not want to know what's going on. They just need a service or whatever they want done. So, what is it that needs to be done to be able to achieve this? Now, and that's what we're saying, that staff need to be given some discretion to solve small problems instantly, create clear boundaries as to what can be done and what needs to be escalated. Okay. And then that way, when people feel ownership of the customer experience, then they're able to perform their best and be able to serve customers at a much faster rate. Not too long ago, I had an experience at a bank where it eventually needed for me to call the CEO to resolve a very small problem. And yet, once I referred the matter to the CEO, who responded very quickly with an apology, the matter was handled in 15 minutes. What had taken me 5 days to solve through normal customer care channels had to be routed to the CEO for me to get a solution. Now, that's what we're talking about. That is the kind of thing we need to avoid. Okay, we need to be able to empower people to be able to make decisions. Washington has made a comment here. Empowering employees entails clarifying roles, boundaries, and decision rights. What feedback, solution, information they can give promptly to reduce tension and repeat visits. And that is that's very true, Washington. Thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, this is what it means. Okay, so again, I think maybe here we're beginning to see something that when you talk about a culture, we're not just talking about one department, but from Washington's comments, I can already tell that that would involve something to do with management, it would involve something to do with HR, defining job roles, and so on. Yeah, so it would involve very many departments working in tandem to be able to achieve or to be able to grow that service culture. Okay, now moving on. Then you once you're able to once some of your agents have been able to achieve or have been able to do something outstanding, moments of extraordinary service, recognize them. Now, there is probably one organization that does this very well. Can anybody think of an organization that does very well, that recognizes people for exemplary service? Anybody in the room who's either in the disciplined forces or maybe has a family friend in the disciplined forces or a family, a relative in the disciplined forces? Anyone? If I may ask you, if you look at folks in the disciplined forces, what do you think they have all those nyotas on their shoulders for? Anybody? Essentially, what do those things they have on their epaulets? What do they really stand for? Anyone? Generally, as you think about your answer, these are usually just ways of being able to recognize somebody. And that's why they are given a whole rank. That because you've achieved this, then you're promoted to this rank. Now, the point I'm making is for humans to be able to work well, they need to feel recognized. They need to feel appreciated. They need to feel that somebody notices what they're doing. So, what does that mean? Okay. It could be something as simple as a quick email to your team, thanking them for an outstanding job that they've done. Okay, that could be one way. It could be at a meeting where you publicly name somebody, maybe in a newsletter. Sometimes it could mean maybe taking them on a trip to where? Masai Mara, yeah, or somewhere else. Okay, just to show them that you appreciate what they do. Okay, and the more people feel that they are what here's my favorite. You go to many organizations, and as you enter into the reception, there's usually a very large picture of an employee, and maybe it's written something like employee of the month, employee of the week, depending on what you choose to do for your organization. And people feel good, when they walk into the place of work and then they see their picture there, they've been recognized, maybe a little shopping voucher to go with it for them to be able to, buy a little extra for their families. It leads to a very, very nice, wonderful, positive environment. So recognize your people. Tell them thank you when they've earned it. Give them a day off to simply celebrate if they've done something extremely, really nice. And those little things that we do are the ones that will contribute to this culture that we're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Help them to feel that indeed what they're doing matters. Okay. So now, having talked about the culture, let's now zoom in on each individual. How can we be a service champion? How can we be a person that really, really stands out as a customer service champion? Now, there are 5 A's that we're going to look at. The first one is approachability. What do we mean by being approachable? You need to be someone customers want to talk to. A smile at the front desk or a quick, how can I help, makes people feel seen. Tell me this. I know many organizations try to resist this, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. How many of us in our organizations have got that one customer who will always come and will ask to speak to a specific person and will never want to speak to anybody else? Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter if you move hell or high water, they're just definitely only going to want to talk to one person. Does that ever happen to you in your organizations? Oh, yes, Violet, tell us about it. Violet, we can't hear you. Go ahead. Okay. All right. As we wait for Violet, yes, it's very common. Now, what do you think that customer service agent has been able to it, it's because they feel that this is somebody I can approach with a problem. Okay? And what does it take? All it takes is for you to say, hello, how are you? What can I do for you? A quick smile. Okay? A bank teller who greets each client by name, and that cue turns into a welcome line. So that's the first A. Be approachable. The second A is be agile. So we're talking about agility. Move fast and adapt faster. When things go wrong, fix it, don't explain it right away. What's an example? A waiter who immediately replaces a wrong order before the customer complains wins instant trust. So you don't wait to argue, you just move with it. You just get it done quickly. The third A, be accountable. Own the outcome, not just the effort. Customers value honesty more than perfection. An example, a call center agent who admits that that was our mistake, let me make it right, and that restores confidence. Be accountable. People know that things go wrong, but how you handle them when they do is what makes the difference. Authenticity. Be real, not rehearsed. People connect with genuine warmth and sincerity. So, for example, a nurse who says, I understand this must be had, and that will turn procedure into care. And that happens with nurses a lot. Sometimes they have to inject you, and as they inject you, they tell you this won't hurt. And man, when that needle goes through, you feel like you want to scream. Yeah. So that's what we are saying, that you want to also be authentic. You don't want to sound rehearsed. In many cases, maybe you have a template that you need to follow, or sometimes maybe even your call is maybe being listened to, maybe by a senior manager. So in situations like that, much as maybe your latitude for improvisation and for doing what you'd like to do is very, very limited, you still need to find a way of making it your own. So that now when it comes from you, somebody can feel that this is something you say from the heart. It's something you really mean, not just something you're saying, for the sake of it. Yeah? Okay. Now moving on. appreciation, and every interaction with gratitude. A simple thank you builds lasting loyalty. So, for example, a supermarket cashier who thanks shoppers for choosing their store, leaving them smiling, and then coming back. And sometimes maybe we have our favorite, uh, shop, shopping malls, supermarkets, where maybe there's this particular, cashier who just makes you happy, and you prefer just to go to them. It's because they have learned how to make you feel appreciated. Simple thank you, and these things really matter. I'll probably give you my own little secret. Maybe try it to see if it actually works. And this comes because of my years in customer care, because I was actually trained in customer care many, many years ago. I've noticed, or maybe I don't know that anybody has, but I've noticed that many times whenever I go to a restaurant, and most restaurants, if you've noticed, all the waiters usually have their names on a name tag or a badge or a little badge that they have on their label. And I've noticed that typically, whenever I greet the waiter or the waitress by their names or by their name, I tend to have better service. Now, remember, I'm the customer, but because you already have that customer care training in your mind, you treat people like they are people, like they really, really matter. Typically, they tend to want to do their best. Now, of course, it's not just trying to schmooze up to them or manipulate them, but genuinely be interested, in who they are, and they feel seen. Because many of us, when we go to restaurants, we just are thinking about our food and maybe the ones we're with, and we completely ignore the waiters. But remember, this is a culture we want to practice. We want to practice even on situations that may not lead to an immediate benefit to ourselves. The tolerance that is that whenever I do that, I've always noticed that the waiters treat me better, and typically they tend to give me better portions. Okay, just just a little thing to think about. So whenever you are with people, practice those skills. Practice that skill of appreciating other people, empathizing with them, making them feel seen, and making them feel heard. Okay, and before long, you find even your interactions with other people generally tend to become much, much better. So let's now talk about a few moments, what moments of truth are. Okay, we've talked about the culture. Let's talk about situations where now we have to put that culture into practice. Okay, and that's when we talk about moments of truth, we're talking about any point of contact between the customer and the organization where the customer forms an impression, positive, negative, or neutral, about your brand. And this is a term that was popularized by John Jan Carlson, former CEO of Scandinavian Airlines, who said a moment of truth is any time a customer comes into contact with any aspect of a company and gets an impression of its quality. Every interaction counts. That's one of the things you need to remember as a customer care agent. They can be big, they can be small. It can be from the way your phone is answered to how a complaint is handled. They can happen online, on the phone, in person, or even through your systems and signage. So here's my question to you. How exposed is your organization? Which are the moments of truth in your organization? Where are customers interacting? Are they interacting with you through your business premises? Are they interacting with you through the phone? Are they interacting with you via your website? Are they interacting with you through your social media handles? Or are they interacting with you through your field agents? So it's every organization is a bit different. So you need to ask yourself, where are they interacting with our brand? So a few examples of positive, negative, neutral. Okay. A warm good morning from the receptionist. Positive moment of truth. Rude cashier who ignores a customer. Negative moment of truth. A website that loads quickly and clearly guides the user. That's a silent positive moment of truth. You're not there. The person could be in the comfort of his home, but how they interact with you online also contributes to how they feel about your organization. So there are three of them. There are three types of moments of truth. The first moment of truth is the first encounter a customer has with your brand, the first call, the first visit, the first click. And that sets the baseline for expectations. A potential client's first impression of your company website or how your staff greets them matters. Okay, so how are they? Are they Are they presentable? Are they happy? Is there a warm smile? Do they feel welcomed? Moment of truth. How do they use your product or service? You go to a restaurant, the taste of the coffee feels off. The comfort of the hotel bed, not quite, it's a bit creaky. How well a mechanic fixes your car. Second, moment of truth. What's the third? What the customer says or does after the experience. Do they leave a review? Do they refer friends? Do they return for more? Okay. For example, if they post a glowing review after exceptional service. So those three moments of truth. First time they interact with your brand, the first impressions. The second moment of truth is how they interact with your product or service. The third one is what they do after they interact with your business, with your product, with your service, with your brand. So how are we doing in this? And this is something we need to think about. If you think about the processes, if you think maybe about the customer complaints also that you may be receiving even right now, what does it say about your interactions at those different moments of truth? Again, this is not to put anybody on the spot. It's just a little exercise that can be able to help us to, as it were, diagnose things that we need to do better within our organization. Why do they matter? They shape perceptions. Customers judge your entire organization based on these brief encounters. And I'll give you an example. How many of us have ever had a situation where maybe our luggage was left behind in a different city from where we were going? Anybody, by show of hands, just raise your hand if that has ever happened to you. Anyone? Okay. If it ever has, if you ever had a situation where maybe that happened, did it ever stop you from ever using that bus or that train or that airline again? Okay. Now, what made the difference? Something to think about. Did they handle it effective? Did they handle it fast? Did they give you clear procedures as to how they would ensure that your luggage got to you? These are what we say, okay? That when these things happen, when such moments of truth happen, how do you handle them? Now, why do they matter? They shape perception, they drive loyalty, consistent positive moments create emotional connection, and they multiply impact because every satisfied customer becomes a brand ambassador, and every disappointed one a warning post. Yeah. So let's keep that in mind. Okay. Yes. So how do you work with them? Use what is called the HART model. The HART stands for hear, listen actively and completely, let the customer speak without interruption. Often they just don't want a solution, they also want to be heard. Keep that in the back of your mind that whenever you're interacting with a customer, it's not just a solution they're looking for. What they also want to know is that have you heard what I've said? Okay, so learn to listen actively and completely. Secondly, empathize. Show that you understand how they feel. People calm down when they feel understood and heard. Three, apologize. Say sorry sincerely, even if it wasn't your fault. And an apology doesn't assign blame, it simply restores dignity. Fourth, resolve. Act quickly to fix the issue. Don't just say you'll handle it. Do it. Offer solutions, not excuses. And then finally, thank them. End with gratitude. Thank the customer for their patience, for their honesty of feedback, and then use that to be able to improve what you do. Okay, that's the HART model. So are we using this? Okay, all right. So that's something to think about, something that we can be can do in our organizations. Now, as we come towards the end of this discussion, we will now want to talk about something that has really made our work easier when it comes to interacting with customers, and that is technology. And really, it is impossible for us to be able to handle customers at scale if we do not have the technology that we have today. We really do have tools that make it much, much easier to be able to interact with customers at scale. Now, what are the basic principles to keep in the back of our mind? Number one, keep the human at the center. In whatever technological product you're using, let's remember that the goal is to help the person in front of you. The technology should never take over. Okay? Tech should be used to empower, not overwhelm. Okay? Uh, and that is why I gave you the example of IVRs and where some customers really get tired of it because if everything is told for this one, press this, for this one, press this. At the end of the day, you'll find that many people will run through all those choices in the IVR and now they get to the one that says, if you want to speak to a customer care representative, please stay on the line. And you'll find that most people will prefer to stay on the line because they feel that they want to talk to a real person. Okay, so don't let tech get in the way. Remember that at the end of the day, what you want to do is to help the person on the other end of the line or across the desk. Make it seamless for the customer. Always try to think of designing your tech in a way that maybe even somebody of very young years would be able to use it. Okay, so don't make it complicated. And I know sometimes there can be real fights with IT over this because sometimes they feel that we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. That maybe to make their work easier on the other end. But remember that we want to ensure that the tech that we present and the tech that we ask our customers to use should be something that they feel very comfortable to be able to do. And this comes again for some time. I do remember doing a couple of web applications for customers, and this is what also taught me the other side that the other side of the aisle. But I mean, to me, who has a tech background, a lot of things looked very easy because that's probably what I do 8 hours a day. But to somebody who is not very comfortable with these things, it can all look like it's a bit too much. So you want to avoid a situation. You want to avoid a situation where the user experience for the customer feels very complicated and very daunting. For many people, just the fact of hearing that this is on the internet, it's on a website, it's on a browser, it just feels like it's too much already. Okay, so sometimes you need to think about those ones, those customers in everything that you do, and that's why you'll notice, for example, like some banks, rather than create ATMs, even in some small towns in the country, you'll notice that they prefer to use agents. Okay, so they have a banking agent who probably has a small business and where people actually interact with the real person. And probably that is because they have noticed from customer data that people prefer to talk to people rather than even using punching buttons on an ATM. The ATM will probably be able to serve this person better because an ATM can work even through the night. At 3 a.m., if you need the money, you just go to an ATM and you're able to withdraw, whereas an agent cannot do that. But in many places, people do not really have that real need. So most of the time, they're just happy to use the agents whom they can talk to, they can interact, they can ask about their cows, they can ask about their goats, and so on. And this is what we say. Technology should be used to empower, not overwhelm. Balance speed with warmth. There are people who just love to chat. Again, you have work to do. So yeah, you need to be able to know when to strike the balance. Continually learn and improve. Use technology to listen, not just talk. So customer service isn't just about responses, it's about insight. It's about monitoring reviews, monitoring social media and feedback tools to hear what customers are actually saying about you in real time. Okay. So one negative tweet, if it is not efficiently and effectively handled, can become a full-blown PR disaster. And that is the one thing that we never want to do. So, what are the key takeaways from what we are discussing today? Excellence is a habit. Excellence is consistency, not perfection. Nobody asks you to be perfect, but they do expect that you'll be consistent. Okay. The second takeaway is that service is everybody's job. Whether you're the CEO, whether you're HR, whether you're the actual customer service agent, whatever you do in the organization, service is something that is a part of it, something that you should do. If somebody needs to interact with the organization, but maybe you're not in the right department, you should be there and you're the first person they contact. They really won't care whether you're the sweeper or whether you're the janitor or whether you're the CEO. Ensure that you help them to the point you can and then escalate it to a colleague who may be able to handle it. And today, people want to feel that they are cared for. Okay. We live in a world of automation and options and AI and all these things. But at the end of the day, humans want to feel unforgettable. They want to feel that somebody cares about them. And that is what will ensure that people do not forget about you easily. When customers feel valued, they just don't come back. They bring others with them. And maybe you've noticed, for example, if you look at the social media pages of many banks, these days they just don't do the hard sell. Oh, this is our loan products, or this is what we're selling, or this is what we have. These are our accounts. Open an account with us. Many of the times, if you look at these major banks in the country, you'll notice that they typically just, uh, tell stories about what's going on. And then as they tell stories, that is when you find a customer says, by the way, my account is closed. What can you do about it? So they answer that, and the story continues. Then somebody else says, how can I get a loan product? They answer that, and the story continues. Basically, that is how customers want to feel. They want to feel that it's not the hard sell. They want to feel like as if they're having a conversation with you as a brand. And then in the course of that conversation, if they need a service, then that is when now they'll ask for the service and then be able to receive it. So think about that. Excellence, service is everybody, and care is everybody's job, and care is the new currency. So the golden rule to remember that you don't get to decide when a moment of truth happens. The customer does. And when that happens, when the moment of truth actually happens in your organization, let's ensure that our customers find us on the right side. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed that lesson.
Wow, great. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for that webinar. Indeed, you are unlocking so many things that maybe we could ideally not really see unless we come into such a webinar. So thank you even for everyone who has participated today. Those are quite great reflection points. And even on a personal basis, just hearing John speak and talking about customer experience and customer excellence, for me, I find it's one very interconnected cycle of excellence, in such that it's about especially leaders, for them, especially if you're in the front line as a customer facing and you are leading your team. I find it's just not about to manage the team, but it's to even enable them and ignite that aspect and that passion to them, because I feel this interconnection helps them even unlock the potential in every team member, and thus making every team member become such a great service champion. And that's what we are advocating for in the light of customer service week. That's what we are looking for, to ensure that you as a leader, you're not the only champion, but you are able to help even your team to become equally able service champions, which is a good thing to start, and it's a good thing to talk about. So in terms of this the cycle, I find it's not about mission, and it's not about that the mission being just possible, but ideally that mission being inevitable, because at the end of the day is delivering that excellence that Jonas spoke about, and the excellence that we know, and as companies we are really advocating for. Then I find again it's a mission for me. When we talk of mission possible, I find it is a mindset. It is a choice. It's a choice. You choose to make that mission possible, and that means if you make that choice as a service champion, then you're able to go the extra mile to bring passion to the process, and even to see that every customer interactions has a chance to make an impact. So remember that is a choice. Then the other thing I've just realized in that conversation again is the ripple effect of a champion. Remember, we've said this is interconnected. It trickles down from from the top leadership coming down to making individual customer-facing champions. So it's again a ripple effect for me. So my advocacy, of course, will be let's go out and lead champion. Let's celebrate in a way that makes our collective mission not just possible but impactful too and long-lasting. So that's really enticing to learn, John, and thank you for your contribution. So my name is Peter. On behalf of ACCUREX. ACCUREX is a HR consulting company, and we do a number of services that are HR related, from HR consulting to payroll management, to team building, to training, like the one that we've just gone through this morning, to offshoring, labor outsourcing, recruitment, name it. We are a one-stop shop for HR related services, and we have People HRIS. That's our proprietary HR system that was able to manage your employees from the time you express intent to hire to the point that you are separating with them. It has quite a number of modules that you can capitalize on. You really don't need to have one system for payroll management, another system for I don't know, leave management or contract management. You will have it all when you have People HRIS. So reach out if you need any of these services. If you think that your company would monetize and capitalize on the services that we offer and will be able to streamline the operations. If you think your HR department is wanting in some aspects, here we are able to just do a quick audit of your company and just get to know where things are not aligned, and we are equally able to help you to align on the same. So that's majorly it from us. The other thing, I just want to maybe to share our contacts here. So if you are looking for us and you need to speak to us, those are our contacts. You can visit our website, www.accurex.co.ke. You can just reach out to us via call, via text, via email, via WhatsApp. But even you can just pop into our office at Mutiti Road. So we are excited to patronage with you, and we are excited that you are able to support us on every Wednesday from 11 to 12:15. And now I just want to check whether we have any questions. I don't know whether there was one really pressing question. Let me see whether we have that on the chat box. Yes, these are just good wishes from Mary. Happy Customer Service Week, folks. Let's always deliver excellence. Mission possible, indeed, mission possible. Mary, we have another one from Rebecca. Happy Customer Service Week to all of us. Congratulations, ACCUREX, for being consistent. Keep up the excellent work. Thank you, Rebecca, for that. If we have any other question, I don't know, maybe you can just raise your hand. John is here. He's able to respond to any question that you could be having. If you've not joined our online community, just we have a feedback form that was pinned earlier, so you can just click to that, check what we're doing, and support us. Join this journey with us, and we are really excited to walk the journey with you as well. So I'm not sure whether we really have a question, any burning question for John at the moment. John, it seems everyone was a good student here, and it seems they were able to understand everything. So if you need a certificate, a participation certificate, if you need just to respond to this, to the feedback form, just check on the feedback form, give us your feedback, tell us how did you find this webinar, what other topics do you think you will want to hear, especially in the coming weeks, and we'll be able to coordinate the same. So we are really grateful. we have the feedback form. Yes, don't, yeah, we have Rebecca, we have it there. Just click it, it has been reshared. Just check it out. So I don't know whether, John, do you have like the last words before we release the team?
No, it's just to thank them for their attention. I'm really grateful that I was able to have a chat to speak to everybody, and all the best in the organizations. We could never do customer service well enough. There's always something to learn. And I just hope we wish you all the best with this customer service week and in the days to come, and in your efforts to make customer service a real part of our culture generally. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon, and let's meet next week, same time, same place, ACCUREX o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.